Welcome to the Side Hustle to Small Business podcast powered by Hiscox. I'm your host, Sanjay. Throughout my career, I've had side hustles, some of which have turned into real businesses. But first and foremost, I'm a serial technology entrepreneur. In the creator space, we hear plenty of advice on how to hustle harder and why you can sleep when you're dead. On this show, we ask new questions in hopes of getting new answers. Questions like, how can small businesses work smarter? How do you achieve balance between work and family? How can we redefine success in our businesses so that we don't burn out after year 3? Every week, I sit down with business founders at various stages of their side hustle to small business journey. These entrepreneurs are pushing the envelope while keeping their values. Keep listening for conversation, context, and camaraderie. Today's guest is Katherine Klimitas, a watercolor pet portrait artist, keynote speaker, author, and graphic designer based in New Orleans, Louisiana. Katherine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So I'm excited to have you on because I think you have a very unique story, especially for our podcast. But before we start diving into that and pet portraits, which I don't think I've ever talked about on this podcast before, give us a little bit about your background and what got you to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So as you said, I am from right outside of New Orleans, Louisiana. I am 37. I have a genetic bone disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, which is basically a lot of big words that mean that my bones break easily and they grow abnormally. So I had already broken 500 times by the time I was 10.
Wow.
It's a lot. And so I am only 2'7". I use an electric wheelchair to get around, and I usually have somebody with me most of the time to help me do things like get food and go to the bathroom and bathe and all of those things that most people can do by themselves. And so when I was young, I went to a regular school, like a mainstream school. I was actually the only person in a wheelchair in my school until my senior year of high school. So, so I had friends that, were just able-bodied, they were normal bodies. And so they would go and do all normal kid things, right? They would go play sports and play outside and be rough and all that stuff. And there were a lot of those things I couldn't do. And I mean, I was included as much as I could be, but obviously there were points where it just wouldn't work. And so my parents were constantly trying to find things that I could do. And so my mom gave me my first watercolor set when I was about 5. And it was just one of those really cheap watercolor sets that, you get a normal 5-year-old, right? And I blew through it and, all the computer paper in the house and whatever. And, although I was 5, it was pretty obvious that I was kind of hooked at that point. Like, I really liked art and I really liked being creative and creating things. And so from there, my parents got me into other art classes. Like, I had art in school, but then I had, outside classes and private classes and summer camps and all kinds of things. And so I just started learning more and more and more art. And my parents were veterinarians. So I grew up with 2 parents who were veterinarians. So I've always had animals. But on Saturdays, I used to have to go to work with them. And so I would get bored and I'd bring my paints and stuff and I'd just start painting the clients while they were waiting to see one of my parents in the waiting room. And just kind of naturally, I mean, I didn't ask for this, but eventually they started paying me to do that. They'd say, oh, I'll give you $20 if, you will give me that painting of my dog you just did. Or, if I give you a picture, will you paint my dog too? And I'll pay you whatever. And for a 10-year-old, I mean, that's pretty cool, right? And so it kind of morphed from there. I mean, obviously, my paintings today do not look like they looked when I was 10. But, you know, like it just kind of went on from there. And I went to Loyola University for what I thought was going to be art, but then I realized how much art I would have to put out physically to make any kind of money.
Right.
Because there's a reason they call it starving artists. And so I said, well, that's not going to work. So I switched my major to graphic design. So I do, today I run my own business out of my home, and it's kind of half and half. Like I do design for clients that are primarily nonprofits, but not exclusively.
Okay.
And then I paint. So. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's funny when you said paint the clients. At first, I was thinking the people.
No.
But those are not the clients. It was the animals that were coming in. So it sounds like somewhat of an accidental entrepreneur, right? Like these just
kind of
stuff just happened kind of along the way.
Yeah. And I mean, the most accidental part is the name of my business, which is KAK Art, CAC Art and Designs, because that's my initials. And it's something I used when I was like 10, when I made my first business card on, Print Shop Deluxe and printed them at home. And then it just stuck. And then I couldn't change it after that,
Right.
So it's fine. It works. Like it's, I don't know if I would change it if I could, but it's just way too complicated to do that at this point.
Yeah. So, I think sometimes we overthink some of those things that honestly don't really matter that much at the end of the day, right? Like, I mean, unless it's a really bad name and has a bad connotation, right? Like, other than that, it for most people, it doesn't really matter. The two of us are not doing companies that are going to be plastered on Super Bowl in a commercial or something like that. Like you need good branding.
I wish. Of course. No, probably not.
Of course. That would be great, but unlikely. So, okay. So it sounds like, your parents, it sounds like they were entrepreneurial as well. They had a business and they were running. Was there anything other than painting the clients and stuff? Did you ever get involved in that business? Did you see stuff? Did you learn stuff from them?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so my parents worked together until I was about 6 in a clinic that my dad opened. And eventually my mom split off, which was really good for everybody involved, because it's really hard for those out there. Like, if you're married and you live together and you work together, that's a very hard situation. So anyway, it was really good when she split off, but she ended up specializing in holistic medicine, which my dad did start his own clinic and his own practice, but she is kind of more the entrepreneur, because what she does, nobody does in this area. I mean, she has clients come from other states to see her. And so, like, for her, she is a really niche, like a niche business. Like, there's nobody else. But my dad was much more a business person than she is.
Yeah.
And so, I learned a lot. I mean, when I was little, when I'd have to be there, I'd go in and like count the money at the end of the day, and I was like 4, but in the 90s, everybody used cash. So, I could count like stacks of 20s, because that's what they used in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I learned how to do that. I mean, thank God my dad passed away several years ago, but thank God he was still around when I started my business.
Yeah.
Because, when you have somebody to help you through like the paperwork and the taxes and the, forming the LLC and all those things, like, because that is not my strong suit. I firmly believe in having a good team around you and hiring people who are good at something you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, he's no longer around, but, I have a bookkeeper and a CPA and, those things that I am absolutely terrible at.
Right. Yeah. So I got to ask you, so your mom went and did holistic medicine. Did she stick with animals or did that switch to humans?
No. She's a holistic veterinarian.
Oh, really? That is very unique. I've never heard of that as a thing.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's a thing. Actually, you have a couple in Atlanta.
Okay.
Because it's a tight group. You know, they all kind of know each other. But yeah, it's good for me. It was good for in a couple ways, right? Like, she was doing something totally different, and pretty much she's it in this area. You know,
Yeah.
so that's good, right? But for me, B, medically, like, you know, my disease is pretty rare. You know, there's only about 40,000 in the United States with it. And at my severity, we're talking like in the hundreds. We're not talking a lot, right?
Wow.
And so doctors don't really know what to do with me in general, you know, because it's a paragraph in a book, you know,
Right.
unless they are an orthopedic specialist that has chosen to specialize in this disease, they got nothing.
Right.
And so you have to think outside of the box a little bit and do things a little bit differently. And the way she was trained really helped us do that. You know?
So interesting. So interesting. Okay, let's turn to the business a little bit.
Yeah.
So you went to Loyola, got your graphic design degree, and then were on your own. Was there like a point in time, like doing this, that you were like, okay, I can make this work? Like, was there the first client, or like, what was it that made it?
It was many years past that. It was many years past that. No, I mean, my first clients came from my parents, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, my first big client came from a client of my mom's, like, friend kind of thing. Like, it was through somebody else. I mean, word of mouth is always the best, right? You know, that's pretty much how I got design clients initially. I mean, you know, they say it takes a certain amount of years to build a business, and that's totally true. I mean, I don't think I was in the black until maybe 5 years down the line. And if that, just barely. And I've been in the red after that. Like, it's not, you know, it's not like it's stable, you know? I would say just the last, so I officially started my business in 2011. I would say maybe after COVID. So the last 2 or 3 years have been good. Like, they're like way more stable, way more solid. I've changed the way I charge people. You know, I've changed just the way my business functions. I've changed how much time I spend painting versus how much time I do design work. I mean, you know, those kinds of things. And you can't just know that right out the gate. You know, you have to just play with it, and it's trial and error.
Yeah.
See what works and what doesn't.
So what like, so, okay. So you kind of changed the levers in terms of kind of the types of work that you were doing to maybe get more lucrative. Were there other things? Like, was it advertising? Was it marketing? Like, how did you make sure that stable of clients? Because I imagine going into the red was probably because you just didn't have enough clients, right, to fill up the time. So how did you think about that?
Well, it was a couple of things. It was not having enough clients, but also not being experienced enough to charge what, you know,
what you were worth.
Yeah, right. And I have, my mom has a really hard time with this too. Like, we have a really hard time charging what we're worth. Like, we feel bad, you know, like charging people. And, you know, when you look at it from an objective point of view, it's not like the energy company feels bad charging you. I mean, it's not like a doctor. When you go to a doctor, it's not like, you know, they feel bad charging you, right? But, you know, for some reason, it's just, you know, I don't know, you just feel bad. So anyway, very recently, like within the last 8 months to a year, I had a friend who I graduated with from Loyola, and she's like, Katherine, this is ridiculous. Like, you've got to, and you don't realize how little you're charging until you look it up and you're like, oh, well, that's now what they're charging right out of school.
Right.
And I've been out of school for 14 years.
Right.
Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's some of that. Like I said, it's just a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. So it's interesting, this kind of thought you had here being embarrassed to charge kind of
yeah.
what you're worth. I think that's a common thing with a lot of entrepreneurs because we feel like, oh, this is embarrassing how much like I'm asking for. It's too much money or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get over that for yourself mentally?
Oh, I'm still not over it. I'm better. I'm better.
Yeah.
Like, especially with design work, because, when you, like I said, a lot of my clients are nonprofits. And
right.
when you realize that a lot of these nonprofits get grants specifically to pay me.
Right.
Like, and it's not like they don't have it.
Right.
And that's not for all nonprofits, certainly.
Right.
I mean, there are certainly nonprofits that don't have it and whatever, but more than likely, they have, and I do a discount for nonprofits. Like, yeah. I don't charge them my full rate, and they get a deal based on the number of hours they use a month and, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so it's not like, saying, oh, nonprofits have all the money, so I'm going to just charge, the max amount I can. I'm not doing that, but they do have some, you know? So, yeah. I mean, you just have to kind of, and some of it also has come from me hiring people to do my job for my business, because I think it's very hard to advertise yourself. It's so much easier to have somebody who's objective come in and say, hey, why don't we do a series of Facebook posts about this, because I think it's really interesting. And I'm like, that's not interesting at all to me, right? But to somebody else, it is, right? And so I think, too, from hiring people to do that for me and seeing what they're charging and what I'm paying them is really helpful as well,
So let's talk about the businesses. So you talked about how you've had these periods where you've been in the red, the black, and the like all these challenges. Is there like one setback that you can think back to that was like the hardest in kind of your journey, and kind of what did you pick up from that and kind of build into the business because of that?
I mean, COVID was hard because I lost all my clients basically, except for 2, and of course there were so many people out of work that it's not like they're buying a painting, that is a challenge throughout my business, is that side of my business, at least, is that's a luxury item. That's not, and it's an expensive luxury item. So it's not like it's something that, if you're choosing between eating and buying a painting, I feel like most people are going to eat, right? So
unless it's edible art, in which case then, right. That may be different.
I haven't moved into that yet. But yeah, I that was hard, and I kind of just took the time to do some painting for myself. Like, I just decided to do something, and it's paid off in the long run, because the paintings I did during that time, I've since made prints of and have sold a good bit of, and so it worked out. But during that time, I pay my own aides out of pocket, okay, and so that's a major expense for me. And so, and it's something I have to have. So, finding a way to do that during that time was a definite challenge. But yeah, everybody kind of was in the same boat there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about the business of creative stuff like this is definitely hard, right? It's not like, other things where it's like, okay, I want you to make this, and then you make it, and then kind of you're done. Because there's a lot of subjective analysis in terms of this. And so how do you deal with that in terms of like rejection or criticism in terms of the work that you do?
Well, for my paintings, rarely do I get somebody who doesn't like what I've done. It does happen. It has happened a couple of times, and then I just go in and make adjustments, and it usually happens with pets that have died, and they've given me pictures, and I paint. I don't know these animals, right? I've never met them. And
Right.
so I paint what's there. I paint what I can see. And sometimes people remember their pets differently than what's in the picture.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes that is a challenge and you just have to work with them. I mean, like I remember this one particular cat that I did, and the cat looked in the picture and it looked in the painting. And the lady was like, "Why does it look so angry?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, this is the picture you gave me." And so I had to work with her a little bit to make the cat look less angry. Now, did it look like the cat in the picture? No. But was she happy? Yes. Did my prices go up the next week? Yes. I mean, like that was a particularly difficult one. But that's rare. I mean, that doesn't happen often. With my design clients, it's a little bit different because when you're designing for like a nonprofit or a company or whatever, you're designing for a purpose other than it just looks pretty.
Yeah.
So like it has to do something. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't do it, it doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's subjective, but not as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the lesson here too is when you're doing cat portraits, you should ask, how ticked off do you want the cat to look? Because I feel like all cats, to some extent, look ticked off for some reason.
They do.
I think it's just inherent
I know.
in terms of their personality.
My mom always said cats are like teenagers, dogs are like kids. So yeah.
Seems about right. Mostly as a general stereotype, probably true. Okay, so let's talk about kind of the challenges that you face, which I think are, as you say, very different than most other people, given how small of a grouping that you're in with some of these health challenges. Like, how do you deal with those in terms of the business and all the things that you probably have to do to take care of yourself as a person, and then the demands of the business? Like, how do you balance these things for yourself?
That's quite challenging, and I'm not doing it well right now because this is my busiest time of year. Because I have people doing pet portraits for Christmas, and I have people buying my products, and I have shows all through the end of the year, and I mean it's a decent amount of stuff. So body wise, it's not necessarily being taken care of at the moment, but not as well as it should be, at least. I just try to prioritize, like what's the thing that needs to be done the most. Like that's kind of where I'm at every day, is what's the thing that needs to be done the most. Whether is it that I need to exercise, is it that I need to rest, because very rarely, but sometimes that happens. Is it that I need to get stuff done? Like, and so it just depends. In a perfect world, we have a pool and I try to swim at least 3 to 4 times a week. In a perfect world, that has not happened recently for a number of reasons, but not all that are my fault, for a number of reasons. But that takes time. That takes an hour out of your day, right? And that's that's hard right now. Yeah. So it's just about figuring out what the most important thing is and doing it.
Yeah. What about engaging in community work and mentorship and being involved with like other folks that are differently able like you? Like, is that something that you've integrated into your life or into the work? Like, how do you think about that and fitting in?
When I get offers, so I like doing public speaking and meeting people and like I like this time of year because I do shows and I get to meet people and talk to people, and because I work at home and I live at home. Yeah. So I don't see a ton of people on a daily basis, right. So I like this time of year where we are doing events and that kind of thing. I mean, it's also incredibly stressful, but I mean, that part of it, I like. When I get offers for things like that, I usually try to do them. Yeah. It depends, obviously it's not always feasible, but if I get offers for it, like I just talked to a kindergarten class on, a week or two ago on Zoom. And oh my God, that went off the rails so fast. but it was hilarious. It was very cute. And you know, normally for public speaking, like, you know, you charge something, you know, you try to
Right.
like, you know, or I have them buy a few of my books or something. But for things like that, where it's like a humanitarian type thing, you know, I like to do those kinds of things. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. That's great.
yeah.
Okay, let's talk kind of retrospectively. You've been now basically running a business for I forgot how many years now. It's been like
Almost 15.
14, 15 years. Yeah.
Almost. Yep.
You've gone through, I'm sure, so many struggles now at this point. Thinking back, is there something that you can think of that if you could go back in time and do differently, you would? And what is that thing and why?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. I'm not real big on regrets, so I don't.
Well, maybe not regret, but
Yeah.
now you learn something like, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done it differently because now I know what I know.
Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like the process of getting to where I am has not been bad.
Right.
It's been challenging, but it's not been bad. Honestly, the only thing I can think, and I mean, he's died, so I can say this out loud, but my dad did a lot of my business, like the business side of my business, because by that point he had retired when I started my business. And that was probably not the best decision. Like I think maybe I should have probably had an outside business person sooner than I did, you know, but you know, you don't want to hurt people's feelings, and you know, it is what it is, kind of thing.
What do you feel like that did that didn't help you as much as it should have?
I mean, technology and him were absolutely oil and water. And so, you know, like the idea of me getting QuickBooks was like a huge problem for him. You know, he did not want me to. He had a ledger, which I still have somewhere, that he wrote down, and he wanted my bank account balanced in a ledger, and I'm just like, but this takes too long. Like, there's such an easier way to do this,
right?
You know, and yeah, it just wasn't. It wasn't the best for that time. Now, I mean, I know that's how he did his business.
Yeah,
but that's when that didn't exist.
Right.
You know, but all of those things existed when I started mine.
Right. Yeah,
you know?
That makes sense.
And so I think that, you know, that's part of it. I think I wish that I had maybe, because I've kind of specialized, it's not by choice, just by the way it developed, but in nonprofit work. And so, and things like donor appeals and, you know, annual giving campaigns and social media and things like that for them. And I wish I had maybe advertised that more earlier, because for a long time I only had one main nonprofit that I worked for, and I learned through them, you know, but like I kind of wish I had, because I may have been able to get more clients earlier.
Yeah.
Really, but you know.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
That's interesting. Yeah. So let me ask you about that. So then, since you talked about technology and everything, do you have any technology or apps or systems that you use that you find critical to running your business and that you would recommend to others?
I mean, I use QuickBooks. I don't know if I'd recommend it. I use QuickBooks. I do like it for the most part. They just changed. The whole interface just changed. And it's very frustrating to try to figure out all over again. You know? But I like it because I can use their credit card system into it. And I can, like when I'm at a show, it just records in my QuickBooks automatically.
Right.
Like I'm not having to go from Square to QuickBooks and, you know, like, and figure out. And then when my CPA looks at my books at the end of the year, it's already there.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to figure that out. So, I mean, that is really nice, because it's turnkey. I mean, I don't have to do anything for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, I use Adobe creative suite. So,
Yeah.
to actually do my work. So obviously there's that. I'm trying to think if there's any other like apps or, I mean, if I did not have my to-do list on my phone, I would be lost. I would have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing when.
Yeah.
With alarms going off. I mean, like I would never be able to function in my calendar. Like I would never be able to function without both of those things.
Yeah. Great pieces there. Okay. Last question for you, Katherine. If you were talking to somebody who's thinking about taking that leap like you did and launching a business, is there some advice you'd give to them?
It just takes time. Like I hear of people who, I guess get lucky and end up like their business is successful right out the gate, but I find that a lot of those businesses don't last, I mean, they're successful for what, 5 years and then they're done. So it just takes time to build clients and to build, your systems and what works for you. Like, for example, I do most of my work laying down because it's just easier for me. It's easier on my back. Physically, it's just better. And so part of what I needed to learn was how to draw laying down, because things look way different when you're looking at something sideways than when you're looking at it straight on, and so like, and I had to learn how to type laying down and all of those things. But everybody has something they have to figure out. You just have to figure out what works for you, and it just takes time.
Yeah, I love it. Katherine, this has been fantastic. Where can our listeners find and connect with you online?
So my website is KAKArtNOLA, like New Orleans, Louisiana, .com. And I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. I'm sort of on TikTok, but not really. And I am on YouTube and LinkedIn.
Okay. I am LinkedIn. Awesome. Thanks so much for being on today, Katherine.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Side Hustle to Small Business podcast powered by Hiscox. To learn more about how Hiscox can help protect your small business through intelligent insurance solutions, visit hiscox.com. That's HISCOX.com. And if you have a story you want to hear on this podcast, please visit hiscox.com/share your story. I'm your host, Sanjay Parikh. You can find out more about me at my website, sanjayparikh.com.